Aloha and welcome to part 3 of Sonic Triple Trouble, everybody. We are still in Robotnik Winter, which may or may not be Eggman Winter in Japan, I don't know. I don't even know if the Japanese even know about Robotnik's American name. Do they? I mean, he's always been Eggman in Japan, but do they even know he has Robotnik here in the States? I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be some Japanese nerds out there who know. Like, they tell all their Japanese friends that, did you know in America that Eggman's name is Robotnik? I swear, it's crazy! And I hope that wasn't an offensive Japanese impression. I'm just doing a weird accent. I always give people an accent when I'm not being myself. I don't know. Leave me alone! But I digress. Actually, yeah, that always made me wonder, did, like, the Japanese get all the American Sonic cartoons? Did they get Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog? Did they get Sonic Sat AM? Do they get the infamous cartoon with the snooping as usual, I see? I don't know. It would be interesting to know what they think of American Sonic. But anywho, folks, we are still in Robotnik Winter as Tails, and as I mentioned before, Tails cannot snowboard like Sonic can. There was an item box I hit earlier that allowed Tails to fly through the area. That was actually a snowboard item box if you were Sonic. But since we're Tails, we only get to fly. You know, Tails was a sidekick character. He didn't get to snowboard all that much in the old games, but still, he had a lot more of a hero status and a more useful status than he does in the newer games, honestly. Like, Tails has become such a diminished character in the series lately, in the 3D games, and that's why I miss old Tails from the classics. You know, he was such a more badass character, such a more... You know, you didn't have to play as Sonic, you could play as Tails, because he's just as good as a character. Now it's like you play Sonic Unleashed, and Tails is in the background doing nothing. You play Sonic Colors, Tails is in the background doing nothing. And he's always whining about his BFF Sonic and how he's so much idolizes Sonic, and I guess that is a characteristic of the classic games as well. But, you know, when we're game players, we don't think about that, because Tails isn't reminding us how much he wants to be his BFF Sonic. He's just being awesome, killing Badniks too, hitting Springs too, going through loop-de-loops too. You know, Tails was like Sonic, only better in some people's minds, because he can fly, and he's a fox, and he's a two-tailed fox, and, you know... I'm just going into a random tangent. I guess when I do Tails Adventure for the Game Gear, I'm going to go into more of a Tails spiel, but, you know... I just figured I'd mention that. Anyway, folks, we're at the boss of Act 3 of Robotnik Winter, and it's just a giant penguin. I think it's a penguin, could be some kind of bird. That shoots mini penguins, and it just rocks back and forth. You jump into it, and actually the more you hit it, the flamethrowers go away, so you have more room to hit it. So it actually gets easier the more you hit it. And at the end, it just stands there, and you hit it one last time, and yeah, that's it. That's it for the Robotnik Winter boss. Not much to say. Oh look, it's our favorite echidna yet again. More fire? Or an avalanche, whatever. See, now that's more realistic. That's more realistic. You're in a snowy area, you drop a giant avalanche on Sonic. Okay, I get that. I don't get how the character transitions from snowy area to avalanche to a underwater tidal plant, but, you know, this is a video game. If I question logic, I'd be going apeshit. That's a huge complaint about Sonic Heroes, by the way. A lot of people were complaining that it made no sense how come you would transition to certain places from another place, and I'm thinking, since when has the Sonic Classic games ever transitioned properly? One minute you're in a green forest area, the next you're in a power plant. I mean, come on. It's a video game. Stop questioning this crazy stuff. Anyway, folks, this is Tidal Plant, and I hate underwater levels, as you know. There's no bones about it. I've always hated the underwater levels. It's just, the Game Gear especially, because in the Game Gear, the physics are so screwed up. Like, your character just runs at this weird, slow pace, and he always... His momentum just pushes him to places you don't want him to go. And you have to worry about not drowning, so you're constantly getting bubbles and stuff, right? It's a tad annoying, but, Tidal Plant is okay if you're Tails, because as you can see, Tails can drive a little submarine machine that shoots open blocks and shoots enemies, and it's freaking awesome. It even has its own theme song, right? Sonic does not get that. Oh yeah, Sonic does not get the submarine. And when you're playing a Sonic, you have to do it the hard way, just running around the level with trying to get the air bubbles and stuff. Well, actually, air bubbles aren't much of a problem in Tidal Plant, because as you can see here, when you're flying upwards in a bubble, that's air for you. Like, you can breathe when you're in this bubble. And unlike the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 bubbles, which you needed to climb into and get up higher to places, like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on Game Gear, I mean, you don't pop when you hit a wall. Like, if you're in that bubble, when you hit a spike, you'll get hurt, and when you get hurt, you get out of the bubble. But if you're, like, hitting a regular wall, you won't get out of it. You'll just, like, sort of hug the wall until you move somewhere else. Which it's pretty neat. It's a little bit easier than Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but then again, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Game Gear is pretty goddamn hard, as I'm sure many people know. So you shouldn't worry about air bubbles too much in this level, because most of the time you're using them to climb higher through the level. But if you do start to drown, you should start panicking now, because there are spawn points for bubbles. There are these little areas where you can stand and wait, and the bubble will eventually come out and give you air, but that takes a whole 5 seconds just for one bubble to show up. And many times it's like, the only reason you stop at a bubble is because your timer started going, right? And chances are you're going to be too late and you're going to drown, and that's no good. Why is it I say that's no good so many times in my Sonic LPs, but every other LP I do, I don't? I just notice I do that. I'm sorry. I swear, it's like I do a Sonic LP and I feel compelled to say, that's no good. Of course, I'm referencing Sonic when I say that phrase, but I don't know if you know that. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Sexual harassment PSA. Look it up. But anyway, folks, we're in Tidal Plant 2, Sonic this time around, and we don't get the submarine anymore, so it's a little bit harder. Not too much, but, As you can guess, yes, this is my least favorite world in the game because it's underwater. I've never liked the underwater levels. That's just my preference. I don't know. I don't like the slow pace of it. I don't like having to make sure I don't drown. I just never liked these levels in a Sonic game. I've never, ever liked them. Some people might like them, and good for you, but, I'm not one of those people. I like ice worlds. I like lava worlds. I like a lot of stuff, but I don't like underwater. I don't like the slow pace. We're playing a Sonic game, and now he's slower because he's underwater. And the stress of dying every now and then because I don't have air, it makes me tense. It makes me very unnerved, I don't like to be unnerved when I play a video game. Also, that's the thing about the Game Gear games. In all the Genesis Sonic games, you always had the And yes, I always have to sing that every time I reference it, but you always had that. In the Game Gear games, you don't get anything. It's like the timer starts counting down and that's it. I'm sure the Game Gear could handle it. If they could give the speed-up shoes a theme, why can't they give drowning a theme? It can be done. But I digress. I do like Tidal Plant's music, though. It always reminds me of Pokemon. Probably because of the similar instruments. It's 8-bit music, after all. But, it just feels like this is some kind of Pokemon town I'd be walking around or something, For the record, I'm not doing a Pokemon LP. I'm not doing that. I like Pokemon. I have nothing against it. It's just, I'm not doing a giant RPG LP of Pokemon, The only one I would do is Red, Blue, or Yellow, and even then, it's like, meh. I like the series, I wouldn't want to do an LP of it. I don't want to make that many videos of that long a game. I'm sorry. But anywho, Tidal Plant, it's not really the most tedious level in the game. Actually, it's the most tedious level in the game, but it's not like the most tedious level you're ever gonna play in your life. You know, it's not a pain in the ass. Like, it's annoying at first, but it's not, you know, oh god! You wanna talk about annoying fucking underwater levels? Oh, just wait for my Sonic Blast LP. That's gonna be a pain in the ass. And I did not say Sonic 3D Blast. I said Sonic Blast. By the way, right before the exit, there was this little pathway of rocks that collapse when you walk on them. You saw me jump over them not just like 3 seconds ago. That kills me a lot. Just before the goal line, they decide to give you these collapsing blocks, which you can't outrun underwater. Like, you can spin dash across them or peel out across them, but, you know, they collapse so quickly you die, and then you have to go back all over through the checkpoint again, and it's a pain in the ass. Anyway, folks, the Tidal Plant boss is Knuckles the Echidna, and he's got himself a nice contraption that shoots bombs and missiles. And it goes in the order of the bombs, the overhead bombs, and then the missiles. The missile comes from below, it goes straight ahead, and the bombs go from like higher on the ship, and he shoots them downwards at you. You can dodge the bombs by going directly underneath Knuckles, and the missile you'll have to get out of the way for. But yeah, that's Knuckles. If you're playing as Tails, you actually start the level in a submarine, and you can shoot at Knuckles that way, and that's how the boss fight plays out with Tails. So it's a little bit different. He does the same pattern, but, you know. I love that Eggman donated this machine to Knuckles. I mean, I think Eggman donated this machine to Knuckles. I mean, Eggman did trick Knuckles into thinking that Sonic's trying to get the Chaos Emeralds again. So, unless Angel Island has its own crazy mechanical underwater machines... Also, Knuckles doesn't have any fucking breathing apparatus or anything. Ah, well. Dumbass couldn't bring any breathing apparatus, now he drowns. No, seriously, Knuckles, you're an idiot.
Shut up!
Anyway, folks, see you at the end in Part 4. It will be the final level, Atomic Destroyer.